Good morning, Barry Bryson here. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We're continuing our study of three Marys: Mary of Nazareth, Mary of Bethany, and Mary of Magdala. And we're talking about Mary, the mother of Jesus, and their relationship. And we get these vignettes in the Gospel, two of them in particular. This one in Luke 2, and then the marriage at Cana in John 2, which we'll talk about next time, that tell us something about Jesus' relationship with his mother. Now, we know that she knows she's raising the Messiah. We know this. We know that they live in the middle of nowhere in a little town in Galilee named Nazareth, that they're poor, that they have a large family. He has a bunch of brothers and some sisters. But we also know that they're a very observant household. I mean, they are observing the law strictly, um, exactly as expressed in the law of Moses. And so this is the home that he's living in. And of course, all these apocryphal stories that we have from Jesus' upbringing, because his upbringing, those years are often called the missing years because we have so few details about that time. But the details we have tell us everything. We get a snapshot. Sometimes you can tell from a single snapshot a lot about a family, um, because people can hide everything on their faces. Um, their eyes, their expressions, their postures tell things that their words will not tell. We have more than a snapshot. We have a home video. we have we have this episode that tells us so much about about their life. And if we think that Mary never yelled at Jesus, we're wrong. We're absolutely wrong. Or that Mary and Jesus never disagreed about stuff and didn't haggle it out, we're wrong, because we're going to see that next time. Because they did. And Jesus was perfect, and she was the perfect mother for him. So that tells us a lot about humanity and our relationships with each other. We're in Luke 2. We're going to read 41 through 52. His parents used to go every year to Jerusalem, the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12, they went up according to the custom of the feast. And as they were returning after spending the full number of days, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, and his parents were unaware of it, but supposed him to be in the caravan, and went a day's journey, and began looking for him among their relatives and acquaintances. And when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem looking for him. And it came about after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. And when they saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, Son, why have you treated us this way? Your father and I have been anxiously looking for you. And he said to them, Why is it that you were looking for me? Did you not know that I had to be in my father's house? And they did not understand the statement which he had made to them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and continued to be in submission to them. And his mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus kept increasing in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. This is this is a story of somebody who left their kid at church. Mom and dad drove separately, and they both think the other one has the kid, but the kid's still at church. I think any of us who are here whenever the doors are open and who have multiple children going different directions, and maybe we both end up at the church building at the same time in different cars. I think that's happened to a lot of us. But this is that on steroids because they don't know where he is for 4 days. And Jerusalem's a big city with lots of Romans in it. They go in their group. I'm sure there was a huge group from Nazareth traveling together to go to the feast of Passover to observe it. Jesus is 12. He didn't have to be with his mom, didn't have to be with his dad. He could have been with his friends. 12 is right on the cusp of where he would be associating with his mother or associating with his father. He's coming to the age of 13, the age, of when he will clearly be identified with the male population. He's 12. So anyway, they go, they do what they're supposed to do. They head home. They have a bunch of other kids younger than Jesus. They just assume he's in the caravan. And he didn't. He stayed behind. That's not okay. It's not a sin. Jesus is perfect. But if you're a mom, it's not okay for him to do this. And they find him in the temple. They had what was called the Great Synagogue, which was just grad school for rabbis. It's right there in the temple, and that's where he is. And they were quite Aristotelian in their methods. They taught by asking questions. And so when Jesus is described as asking questions, in other words, he's in their midst as their teacher. He's listening to them and he's asking them questions. He's leading the conversation on the law. This is a miraculous thing in itself. Everybody's amazed. His parents are amazed because they have scoured the city for 3 days. Can you imagine the 2 nights they went to bed having not found him in the city of Jerusalem? And then they do on the third day. His mother is so upset and she yells at him. It's not right for her to even enter the room, let alone speak up, let alone interrupt, but she does. And I think we all know what she's feeling and why she doesn't hesitate. And she says, he's there teaching the rabbis the law at 12 years old. And she says, why did you do this to me and your dad? I mean, it's personal with her. We are so scared. We've been looking for you for 3 days. And his response is, why did it take 3 days to find me? There's only one place I'd be, and it's here in my Father's house. And he tells us his own awareness of his Father in heaven. And both fathers are called Father in this account. That's important. Your father and I, that's Joseph, your Abba and I have been looking for you. And he said, I had to be in my Abba's house, my Father in heaven, in his house. But then the way the story ends is he goes back home and he obeys his parents. They had to make rules for him, and he was expected to abide by their rules, and he did. And he continued to grow exactly the way that growth is described in verse 40, but there's an added dimension to it. Not just that that God, he was in favor with God and the grace of God was upon him, but the favor of men as well. That he established good relationships. He grew intellectually, he grew physically, he grew spiritually, and he grew socially. He had a four-dimensional growth and upbringing in this small town in the middle of nowhere with a mom and dad who were at times exasperated with him and who at times raised their voice to him, and who knew exactly who he was, especially his mother, who continued to ponder all these things in her heart. Okay, thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We'll pick up with the marriage at Cana in Galilee next time.